and good evening, and welcome to the Town of Barnstable Waterways Committee meeting for Tuesday, March the 26th. We have all members of the Waterways Committee present: Peter Cross, Greg Egan, Todd Volantis, Gary Shramick, and myself, Paul Everson. And for the Town of Barnstable Harbor Masters Department, we have Brian Taylor, the Harbor Master, Jay Horn, the Deputy Harbor Master, and Pam Swider-Cohen, who's the Principal Assistant. And before we get going, I just have to ask that tonight's meeting is being recorded and broadcast on Channel 18 in accordance with Mass General Law 30A, Section 20. I must inquire if anyone is taping this meeting, and if so, please make their presence known to the chair. Hearing none, we'll jump into the agenda. And we will act on the minutes of February 27th, 2024. Has everybody had a chance to look at those?
Yes.
Yep. Yes.
I would make a motion to approve the minutes of February 27th as presented.
Okay, thanks, Greg. Second by Todd. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And aye. Okay, that passes. Next up, we have notices of intent. We do not have any. And Jay, no mooring appeals at this time, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, let's jump into our first old business. Jacob Angelo, 46 Meadow Lane, West Barnstable. Fish trap weir application continued from February 27th, 2024. Jay, can you give us an overview of what we have on this?
Yeah, it's a continuation from last meeting. There was some debate over when the fish weir should actually start. We had some concerns about it starting at the proposed date. I believe Mr. Angelo has revised his start date since then. The committee also wanted us to bring up several charts so we could see the exact location, and I have those available for the committee tonight. And we've had a lot of correspondence. A lot of people have written in, mostly in approval of this fish weir. A couple people that are opposed to it, but the vast majority of the letters we received here at the office were in approval of the fish weir.
Okay, thanks. Can we have Mr. Angelo speak? And while we're having him come on board to speak, Jake, you could put up the chart.
Actually, this is Attorney David Lawler. I'll be assisting Jake this evening as well. I thank the board for sorry for jumping in. I just didn't know when to make myself known.
Okay, that's
and
fine.
I'm coming in late, and Jake contacted me yesterday. He may jump in a little bit on this, but with the actual particulars with respect to the location and those matters, I'll let Jake discuss that. He's far more knowledgeable if you have any questions, but I just want to get into the standards and the law a little bit later. But I'll pass the baton to Jake with respect to the charts and location. So Jake, why don't you go?
Thank you very much, David. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and the committee. Last meeting, you guys requested some more clear charts. So I got a couple at West Marine and charted out exactly. This is the overall footprint in orange of the Hyannis weir. And then I also did one for the Wiana weir as well. And we also spoke about markings of the weirs themselves. And I've also had some conversations with not only the previous weir fishermen, but some people, scientists that have worked on the weirs, and it's in other people in the industry, that the way that it's been marked with one light at the end is how it's kind of been marked, and it's indicative with like the breakwater right next to it. And sometimes if you add extra lights, you will change what the regulations call for. And then it doesn't make it as noticeable. For example, if you're gonna tow tow a boat, it requires specific lights for that. And if you wanted to go above and beyond and add extra lights in certain spots, somebody that's reading that on the water at night might read it differently. So what it does call for is a light at the end, and it asks for buoys around the seaward end of the bowl, also one each end of the heart, and that's about it. And then in addition, it doesn't call for any radar reflectors, but I was going to put down quite a number of radar reflectors, even though the weir itself, as you can hear and see in some of the testimony, comes up very well on a radar display at night.
Okay, approximately what is the length of the weir?
It's 700 yards total, including the bowl and the heart.
And for everybody's information, can you explain what the bowl and what the heart is?
Well, the way it works, it would be easier to kind of describe. It starts from the shore when the fish is coming along the shore, it hits the longest part, which is just a straight shot of net in poles. When it hits that, it either has to go inshore or offshore, and it will typically go offshore. So as it goes offshore, the next obstacle it runs into is the heart, and it kind of looks like a heart. And it's a series of funnels on each side that the fish will go into. And then once they get into there, they'll typically try to end up in the bowl, which is the big round spot at the end that the fish are harvested from.
Okay, and the bowl is the most seaward point of the trap?
Correct.
Okay. All right, and on this application, you also wanted the the Wiano one as well?
Yeah, well, just the way that they're usually fished is at least several. Typically, in the past, people would have up to 5 or 6. Each company would have 5 or 6. There's multiple companies. 2 is what is existing in Barnstable and is what I'm asking for.
Okay, and the setup of the Wiano one, is that the same? It's the 700 yards?
Correct, it's the same type of gear, same setup. It's identical.
Okay. Okay. Can we have comments from the Harbor Masters Department first off?
So, good evening, Brian Taylor, Harbor Master. We currently have two fishware applications in the exact same location that Mr. Angelo is proposing. That is from Nantucket Fishwares. They've been in the industry for over 15 years now. Jake, you may know exactly how long he's been there, over 15 years for sure. As the Waterways Committee members are aware, the fishwares go out and they are permitted from April to the end of June. Mostly active towards the middle of April and into June, middle of June.
Okay. And as far as the markings of this, Mr. Angelo who said, that if you light it up like a Christmas tree, I understand that, we have a problem with navigation, but adequate amount of radar reflectors for the night. And just, Mr. Angelo, is the seaward end of that, is that with a yellow light?
I believe it is, yeah.
Okay. And is there an industry standard as to how bright that can be, how big it is?
Well, it's typically it's considered a privately maintained light
Right.
by the Coast Guard, and so that would be up to, I guess, my discretion or your discretion how bright it would be. But I wasn't gonna cheap on the light. They make very high quality solar rechargeable lights, very waterproof. So I wasn't going to skimp on that. If you have any in mind in particular that you want to, propose.
Okay. I think what we need to do is look into what the industry standard. I'm familiar with the fish weirs. I think I mentioned the last time around. I covered when I ran the Marine Patrol for the Barnstable Police on June of 1989. I was mistaken when I said before that the boat hit the fish weir at Wiana was actually the Hyannis Port one. And it was a boat coming from Hyannis Harbor and going to Halls Creek that was trying to cut around and hit that. I believe at the time, pretty much the same requirements was a yellow light, and it was basically a flashlight that was taped to the outermost support. So it satisfied the letter of the law, but boy, it certainly could have been brighter. Okay. Let's go to members' questions first. Any of the committee members have questions they'd like to ask about the timing and the placement of this?
I have a question, Mr. Chairman.
ahead,
Peter
Peter.
Cross, board member, commission member. Sir, what are the dates that you're proposing? Because I don't have an objection to these fish weirs. I'm curious about the dates that you're proposing. What's the install date and what's the takeout dates?
Yeah, I apologize. I actually forgot to mention that. I changed the application for the day after Labor Day, whichever day that falls between. I think I looked it up on Google. It could be the 1st or the 7th of September. So whatever day the day after Labor Day is, I start putting the poles in, and everything would be out by November 30th. Pretty much the month of it would primarily be fish September and October, and then the month of October would be to take it all down. Probably less than the month, but just November 30th.
Is there a spring fishing date anticipated by you?
Not at the moment. These two locations are already permitted to Kurt Martin, so.
And for the record, Mr. Cross, Labor Day is the 2nd. So the applicant would be seeking the 3rd, September 3rd.
That's incidental. Thank you. I'm in favor of the project, and you've changed your dates, and you'll get my vote on what you've proposed so far.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead, Greg.
Hi, Paul. Sorry about that. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Nope. You're up next.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Mr. Angelo, thanks for providing the charts. We asked you for that, and you provided them with good detail. It's very helpful. Yeah. The information that came up relative to the Nantucket weirs was also helpful. That did not come up at our first meeting. I was curious, do you lease the equipment, the poles, the nets, or do you already own it?
Well, specifically, most of the gear that I'll be using will be coming from the guys that have already, Ernie Eldridge and Kurt Martin. The pole, I already have a whole pile of poles I'm looking at out the window that me and Tony Day, who's here, another guy, Connor Rogan, we drove down the Sage Harbor and took them off the beach and rafted them up and towed them all the way back to Barnstable, and then put them on my boat trailer and towed them home.
Okay, thank you. How long is the request? I'm not familiar with the permitting of these structures. How long is the permit good for? Is this annual?
It's a 5-year lease.
Okay. All right, thank you. In terms of the lighting, I think our original concern was navigation, of course, and safety. And my previous commentary was hopefully we could work something out in support of you and the industry and the blue economy. and appreciate your efforts to come back with the further information. I understand it's a privately marked, private lights. Would you consider light on either end with a 360-degree arc of visibility, so they could be sort of identified on either side?
Sure, that's no problem.
Okay, and then my last question for right now was, would you consider a date of the 15th of September, 2 weeks after that you had asked for?
It's really quite a process to set up, and the window is not that long for how much effort and it takes to do something like this. So, you know, that's why I wanted the April 15th, is because if I get it set up in 2 weeks or a week and a half, I could be fishing by, you know, so now I won't actually, if I don't get it until September 15th, I really won't be fishing in September at all.
And Greg, I'm going to jump in on behalf of Jake in this one. If you look at the spring weirs, they go all the way up to June 30th, which is essentially 4th of July weekend. Far busier than the weekend after Labor Day. And that's been able to been, you know, that's been in existence. I remember them when I was very young with my father. So when I'm almost 60 years old. So for that period of time, both the Weano and the Hyannis Weir have been up and running, up and through, permitted certainly up and through June 30th. And part of it is in speaking with Jake, he's the real expert, but the fish migration is very active in the September portion. He has to get them set up. He can't start setting them up. And even though he can run to November, late November is really not very active. There's some fish obviously, but not to the extent that makes this a viable operation. And when you compare that, you know, first week of September after Labor Day to literally the beginning of the July 4th weekend, there's no comparison on the activity on the water. So, and we suggest to you, and also with the light, Jake would certainly put a light on either end. The only recommendation I have is, as being on the water myself, I know that talking to somebody at Woods Hole, they purposely don't put too many lights out because it gets confusing. And I would just suggest that we will do what's recommended, you know, by the professionals for the town, either 2 or 1. But I just don't want to create, an unnecessary hazard, an unintended consequence of having the 2 lights, because it could look like something else. So certainly Jake would be willing to do that. But I would ask that we ask the professionals, the harbor master, what their opinion would be. One or 2 would be better, and we certainly would go with that.
I appreciate that response. I'm very familiar with sort of lights and how they appear from a boat, from both ashore and from offshore. And I think that would be a good suggestion if it does go forward, would be to have a harbor master's approval of some sort of safety lighting. Not to be a hardship, but again, the charge of this committee is to ensure safe navigation, and I know there's views on all sides of that, but we need to do the best we can on behalf of the town to make sure there's no accidents. So
Absolutely, Greg. Absolutely.
so thank you.
Okay, thanks, Greg. Todd?
I'm in favor of the project. I can't help but to have concern, but it's no fault of Mr. Angelo, the foundation of the concern. It's a highly traveled route. It's usually traveled after dusk. And I certainly don't, like every other person attending this meeting, I wouldn't want to see anyone get hurt, but I don't think that's any fault or cause of the potential weir by Mr. Angelo. I just think it's a tough area, and there's some inexperienced boaters that choose to travel that way. But I'm in favor of it.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Gary?
Just a couple things. Is there, with the restrictions on the size of stripers at this point and the kind of the depletion given the seals and the sharks around the Cape and Islands now. I mean, I know that a lot of fish, well, the fish get trapped in there. And do you have any data regarding the undersized stripers that may get trapped in there? I mean,
Well,
that area is, you know,
yeah, no, I can clear some of that concern up easily. Well, when I was learning how to do all this with Kurt in the spring, I had never seen one striper in there. So it's not very common in my short experience to see them, but nonetheless, you might assume that they might get in there. I'd assume that if I was, if I'm doing this, I'll probably see one at some point maybe. And with these things, the bowl is very large, and when the fish are in there, they're swimming and acting and behaving as if they're in the ocean naturally. They're not rubbing against the net. They're balled up with their own kind. And when this net is pursed up to be harvested, you get to a point where the fish are tight enough, but they're all in their own little balls. And you can just simply, with gaffs, grab the bottom of the net and pick it up and then loosen the rim lines and all the fish. If, for example, scup in particular, if you get a bunch of small scup is what I saw a lot. We did this a lot with the scup. You don't want to handle a bunch of 90% short scup to get 10% keepers, no matter what in their scup. You just let them go. You can just separate them from the other schools, let them go. And it also helped with the quality of the fish that we were keeping, because then the squid, which get banged up very easily, you could separate the squid out and get the squid out cleanly without them being damaged by the bunker or whatever else. So
Yeah.
we caught a sand tiger shark. We caught fish, and let plenty of fish go alive, no problem.
all right. My only concern right now is the date and the activity around there. In early September, it's still really active with recreational people. That's my only concern, is safety.
No, I understand the concern for sure. I mean, I'm on the water, and I'm concerned about recreational people hitting me out on the water all the time. You're out on the water every single day from sunrise to sun up, and you can imagine the things that I come across on a daily basis, weekly basis out there. But this actual area, I actually tried to figure out what this squiggly line is on the chart. I think it might be like an underwater cable or something. But if you actually sit back and you look at the channel itself, that's not the channel. It kind of almost appears to be, but if the white outline from coming from the inner harbor, going through the red and white can, or the red and green can, and then typically you would go down to the south. By the time you get to follow the channel all the way out, you're basically at the end of the weir. And if you wanted to go, if my weir was in the way, hypothetically, and you wanted to go that way to the east or to the west, across the southwest grounds, as it's called, the northern part, it's very, very shallow and very,
A
very
lot of rocks. Yeah.
And so, in the breakwater, it actually extends out almost, if not a little bit more than the weir itself.
Is there anybody in the Zoom that is in opposition to this at this point?
Well, we'll get to.
We'll do that after? Okay.
Yeah, we're gonna get to other, people. We're gonna finish up with the members first.
All right.
In the harbor master staff.
I just have one more comment.
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
If this is approved, if we are concerned about novice boaters or people not familiar with the waters, there's no mandate around signage at the marinas or at the boat ramps. Is it possible to have some kind of signage about the weirs and showing the location? And the other thing is maybe a post or a sign at the beginning of the weir to designate where people who are not familiar with the waters. That's just a suggestion.
Like a big like square sign on the end.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah, that's no problem.
All right.
I'm just, we're very happy to put up a sign, but would that encourage some people to pull the boat up close and get in trouble? I'm just, again, unintended consequences. I just want to throw that out there. We wouldn't oppose it. We certainly, if you want us to hand out pamphlets to Hyannis Marina and whatever, and provided the boatyards are acceptable to that, we've been more than happy to hand out informational stuff for the boatyards and give them that if they want to hand those out to their clients. We would certainly be willing to do that.
Well, it was
But I'm just thinking
a
of the unintended.
suggestion based upon the activity, that's all.
Yeah, whatever the board recommends in that regard, would accept that, but I just want to, again, throw that out there and maybe again, have that run by the harbor master and the liquor professionals, and would make whatever they decide, we would be more than willing to do as a condition of approval.
Okay.
All right, thank
I'd
you.
like to add that it's put on the notice to mariners, daily notice to mariners for the Coast Guard, which, you know, I know obviously no one does probably check that, but it's there it would be there every day. You could go there, and if it's not there, that means the weir's not there, because I'm supposed to report to the Coast Guard when it's exactly there, and not, as well as the harbor master when I put it in exactly when I take it out.
I do know it shows up on my Ray Marine electronics as a wear area. Fishing, I know mine has that on there for the spring. I don't remember if it pops up in the fall, but I think it's there all the time. I believe that. I'm quite certain of that because I remember seeing that.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I was going to mention the Coast Guard mariners notice that that would appear on that. Mr. Angel, tell me about the fishery that you're actually going after in the fall, and does that differ than the springtime?
Not too much. We do have some fish in the fall that are not here in the spring because of the warmer weather, but the sea bass quota is trending upward, and that's been open into November past few years, except for last year. And then there's scup that never gets filled, the quota for. Same with menhaden is often not filled. So, you know, there's butterfish, there's still some squid swimming around, there's some northern kingfish, there's, you know, all different things. Bluefish.
Okay, thank you. For the Harbor Masters Department, have we heard at all from either the Steamship Authority or Heinlein? Are they aware of this proposed change?
It was posted under the Waterways Committee agenda website, but at this time I have not communicated to Highline or Steamship about the potential application. Please let it be known that this application needs to go to town council so that upon either approval or denial from Waterways, we'd make a recommendation. I would make a recommendation to the director of MEA, and he would forward it to the town manager, and then the town manager would discuss it with town council.
John Madden, who's a captain for Highline, did a public comment, and it's in the pile of those.
Okay, thank you. And for the Harbor Master, Massachusetts Marine Fisheries, any weighing in with them or concern, pro or
That's
against?
correct. Jacob did contact, correct, Jacob?
DMF is in favor of it. They're looking forward to hopefully seeing this through.
And we have the letter in hand from them as well with the application.
Okay, thank you. I believe, you know, let me just look. We have listed 26 people right now that would like to speak to this. 26 people logged in. I will ask, I'll just go down the list and just, if you could keep your remarks brief, and if you're in support or against this, but let's start with All Cape Docks. Do we have somebody from All Cape Docks? Okay, not hearing anything. Oh.
I don't see any problem with it. I'm all for it.
And can you give me a name, please?
Michael Whiteley.
Okay,
Thank you.
Okay. Anthony and Rebecca Day.
Hi, Tony Day, Centerville. I did submit a letter today in favor of the proposed wares because I've been working with Jake on this since inception. Like you said earlier, we took a boat ride over to Chatham to pick up all the trees in the fall this year in hopes that we would be able to do this. Yeah, it's a big deal for me, my family. I'm a commercial fisherman. I lobster on the north side. I have a boat in Barnstable Harbor in the slip over there, Raider 3. This gives much needed opportunity to be able to explore another fishery, be able to be on the water more, fishing sustainably, and to work with a really good group of commercial fishermen. So obviously, I'm very much in favor of this. It would be very beneficial to my family and to my business. So thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. Anthony Gerasi.
Hi, just a resident of Cape Cod, just listening into the meeting for the day.
Go ahead, sir.
Oh, hello. Can you
Yes.
guys hear me? Hi.
Yes.
Just a resident of Cape Cod. I had submitted a letter in favor of the weirs going in, but today I'm just listening in.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Brian Lynn.
You have my letter in favor of Jake's application as well, so I'll leave it at that.
Okay, sir, thank you. And we have, it's bouncing around here, Caroline.
Hi, I'm just listening in, and I wanted to also just express a concern on the date. I would be in favor of the September 15th or later date, just given this, there's a beach club right there, and also lots of young children sailing and boating. So just expressing concern about the date.
Okay, thank you. Do we have CJ?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Hi, I'm the fleet captain for the PHRF Ocean Class Fleet at the Hyena Shock Club. I'm just here taking notes and would defer to Bill Lawson, who is on the race management side of things for the club. But I do personally agree with the later date with the kids sailing and swimming.
Okay, thank you. Corey Hendricks.
Hi, I'm Corey Hendricks. I'm an agricultural farmer and also a commercial fisherman and tribal member, born and raised in Barnstable. And I'm in support for Jake and this fishwear. I actually would like to, if I get the chance, to help learn and participate in this program. And I just want to say I'm in support. It's a great way to revitalize this historical fishery. And as I did want to make comment to the dates, like Jake was saying, to put the dates another 2 weeks later, as someone who's a fisherman and an aquaculture farmer, there's no guarantee that those weeks in September are going to be good weather. So by giving us the day after Labor Day, if there is, a few storms, like we're going to be starting later anyways, and essentially the fish run September and October, and in November they're pretty slow. So that 2 weeks would be very significant. And I know the original date I think was August 15th. So I feel like Mr. Angelo already made a compromise and cut 2 weeks off of that fishing season. So I think it's just, if Mr. Angelo does the correct marking, whatever, really makes it noticeable, and we inform the boaters, like it should be accepted, because it's just a really good opportunity for all fishermen and like you said earlier, the blue collar economy. That's all.
Okay, thank you, sir. We have George Maynard.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
All right. You have my letter already, but I'm a Barnstable resident and also a scientist at the Northeast Fisheries Science Center in Woods Hole. And I was just here to indicate that if this application is approved, we are prepared to work closely with Mr. Angelo on installing some of our environmental sensors on the gear to participate in some of the research that goes on down at the center. That's all.
Okay, thank you. Chris Clark.
Thank you very much. I'm Chris Clark. I live in West Barnstable, and I'm the counselor for Precinct 11. Jake is one of my constituents, but I also know him from the shell fisheries, having worked in the oyster farms in Barnstable Harbor. I'm here to support Mr. Angelo's request for the town's permission for his weir operation and have read the letters that were submitted. Mr. Simonich's letter was especially compelling, and he gave a historical perspective of the traditional operation of weir fishing in Barnstable. Mr. Simonich referenced Cape Cod family names of the past who defined our community at the time. Jake also tells me that bycatch fish in the weir will all be released alive. That was of concern to me as well. The letter from Mr. Ashworth was also of particular interest. Mr. Ashworth cites the marine charts with latitude and longitude plotting on a U.S. Coast Guard standard chart and concludes that there's no reason that this would be an impediment to navigation for sailors. And I quote, it's in the town's best interest to keep both commercial fishing and recreational sailing as part of Cape Cod current times. So I think that we've had a fisherman speak to the town council advocating for the working waterfront. And this particular unique fishery fills a niche that is like none other. And I would like to celebrate our working waterfront this way. And I applaud Jake for being an energetic and resourceful fellow for bringing in scientists and local interests to support his initiative here. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. Rachel Lynn.
Good evening. My name is Rachel Lynn and I live in West Barnstable. I also submitted a letter in favor of the weirs in advance of today's meeting. However, given some of the commentary that we're still hearing, I did want to read a small portion of my letter. It says, the weir in question poses no greater risk to boaters than the breakwater and rock field in which it's nestled. Yet the weir is a productive, sustainable, and economic asset to the local community. It's hard to imagine, given the weir's proximity to the breakwater, that it creates any additional navigational inconvenience to any class of boater. The examples of impressive sailing races and events that have been held during the spring when the weirs are in place are a testament to the fact that these two communities can and have successfully coexisted. A recommendation against allowing existing weir site use after Labor Day disproportionately prioritizes the recreational boater over those who work on the water for a living. I know that many of the people who originally were contesting and sharing their concern weren't aware that Jake had changed his dates to no longer be August 15th, but now be the date starting after Labor Day through November 30th. This certainly meets the loosely understood definition of fall on Cape Cod and was an adjustment that Jacob made in response to the last Waterways Committee meeting. So I really do hope that after everything we hear today, we continue to share and kind of celebrate how we can all coexist on the water. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Sam Wilson.
Yes. Hi, this is Sam here. Grew up in Hyannisport. I'm glad to see he's pulled the dates back. I also support that later date. The thing that I have not heard brought up at all, and I'm curious about, is I know this area is also a very bountiful false albacore fishing area for small boats in those first 2 weeks of September and last week of August. And I was just curious how this would impact that recreational fishery, especially one that is accessible to those who have smaller boats and can't necessarily go out to Monomoy or go offshore.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Angelo, can you comment as far as the fall fishery and the?
Yeah, I'm well aware of the fishery myself. I've been an avid false albacore fisherman my whole life. Grew up at the Oswego Anglers Club. Did the fall Dana-Farber cancer charity tournament back there at Hyannisport. And where this is, it's a stationary thing. You can maneuver around it. The breakwater where they run up and down is still completely accessible. The whole rock pile out by Bursa's Rock and Gannett Rocks and off at the tip of Hyannisport where they all congregate is all still there. They also love to congregate in the actual channel itself, especially early in the morning, first thing. All the rocks off Point Gammon, obviously, I mean, then you got Craigville Beach, you got, the Oswego Cut. I'm out there pulling sea bass pots and they're out in 50, 60 feet of water in the middle of the sound in the middle of the day. So they're moving around everywhere. And there's plenty of room to go fishing for everybody.
Okay, thank you, sir. Sherry Lawson.
Hi, it's actually Bill Lawson. I would support the idea of commercial fishing there. I'm very appreciative of the date change till after Labor Day. I think that's helpful. From the Hyannis Yacht Club point of view, we run small boat races and large boat races out there. We try and be respectful of the commercial traffic that's going in and out of the harbor and stay clear of that. A little later in September would be great, but I understand the concerns of what is being attempted here in terms of when the fish are there. So I think as long as it's after Labor Day, that's a big step.
Okay, thank you. And Tyler H.
Hi, I'm just a resident listening in.
Okay. Thank you. Do we have anybody else that would like to speak to this?
Yes.
Okay. Oh,
My name is Brad Shepard. Can you hear me?
yes, go ahead, sir.
I just wanted to say I'm a resident of Hyannis. I have a boat in Hyannisport and also expressing concern over the timing of the permit. I'd prefer it to be later in the season.
Okay, thank you. And anybody else?
I'd just like to make a couple of comments based on some of the comments. This is David Lawler again.
Yeah.
And it's very brief.
Okay, go ahead, sir.
With respect to the indication of the kids, and obviously everybody's concerned of that, but this is after Labor Day, so the kids will be in school. So the first time that this would happen, and I just ran the numbers very quick, the first Saturday for the first year is the 6th, the 7th, the 12th, the 10th, and the 9th. So for the first, we're literally talking 2 days that would interrupt the 15 days in early September. And also the individuals who spoke were all involved, and thank God we have them in the local yacht club. So clearly they're aware of this, and that the children will be, and they, handling, their fleet will certainly be aware, and they'll, I can't imagine they're not going to instruct the kids to stay away from this area. And as far as beginners are concerned, this is the end of the season, so the kids will have a little bit more experience having handled boats all summer. So when you compare that and a cost-based analysis, as Mr. Angelo indicated, the fishing is very significant in September and less so in November. I think if you weigh the concerns and the traditional historic nature of the weir fishing, having started with Native Americans who hundreds and hundreds of years ago. And been in this area, and certainly these two weir fishes, and certainly been in this area my entire lifetime. I think that it certainly goes in favor of approving this application, and thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, go ahead, Mr. Cross.
I move that we approve this permit based on the revised date of Labor Day.
Oh, okay.
Procedurally, you need to close public comments, that's all. Sorry to be a nudge. The
I
lawyer.
move we close public comment.
Okay, we will close the public comment at this time. So, Mr. Cross, you want to make a recommendation? We adopt this as presented for basically Tuesday, September the 3rd.
I move that we approve this permit request for a fish weir based on the day after Labor Day date, which is movable depending on the year.
Okay. Let's have a discussion on that. As far as the harbor master is concerned, is this a 5-year permit?
Yes, this is a 5-year this is currently right now, this is an application. So it's in front of Waterways. Again, it needs to go in front of town council. So this is the first step in the process. But you're correct. If permitted, it would be a 5-year permit.
Okay, do we have any options on that as far as?
I can't answer that right now. To the best of my knowledge, I'm not sure. I'd have to inquire with legal regard to that matter.
Okay, as you know, yeah, go ahead, Jay.
That was the radio. I'm sorry, Paul.
Okay. Okay, so what I'm concerned is if of the date, if we maybe have a little more discussion about that. We've had a couple members suggesting maybe the 15th, and it's currently moved from August 15th to September the 3rd. If we have a problem, or if we make a recommendation and we have a problem, we're basically stuck with a 5-year problem. That's what my concern would be. Any other comment on as far as the proposal as far as the date is concerned?
Mr. Chairman, can we put a proviso in this to have an annual review of this permit?
Well, that's what I was asking the harbor master about, and we just don't know that right now.
Yeah, I'd have to inquire with legal in regards to that matter. I can't answer whether or not we can have that provision in there.
Okay.
If for some reason that this weir all of a sudden becomes a safety concern due to events, does anyone know if there's the provision that we can suspend the permit?
No, not at this time. I'm not aware of that. Like I said, it needs to go through town council. I'd have to contact legal to find out more in regards to that.
I guess that would be the only thing is if it does become an event, which hopefully nothing ever comes of it, but if it does, obviously the ability to review and amend would be necessary. And I would think it would behoove Mr. Angelo as well if some unfortunate event transpired that I'm sure as a good business person, he would want to review the practice as well.
I can tell you as an attorney that certainly the towns have certain police powers. If there's a danger to society, there's this, that, they can step in, and there certainly are avenues that the town could take if it became a obvious hazard. I know my client would work with the town. And again, these weirs have existed in the same location for well over 50 years, and it hasn't been a problem. I mean, there are some incidental issues out in the water, no matter where you are, some inexperienced boaters, some people, things happen on the water. I mean, look at the tragedy that happened in Baltimore today. It was an experienced pilot. So clearly, there are avenues that the town could have, and I do think you can definitively set the date as the day after Labor Day. Labor Day is a date by statute on the federal government. It's, as the first Monday in September, so it's definitive. I just looked up in, this meeting, the Labor Days for the next 5 years. When I gave my presentation, it took me 2 seconds. So it is a definitive date. And I think that the board has the authority to issue that date. It's a changing date, and then the back end date would be solid at November 30th. So I certainly think this board does have it. And even though I'm not representing this board, I would suggest to you that the town, under its police powers, has absolutely remedies to go in there and deal if there's a problem.
Okay, thank you. Any other?
Yeah, Paul,
any
this
other-
is Paul, this
Yeah,
is Greg. I've
yeah, go ahead, Greg.
just been listening here, obviously, and participating. I think the chair brought up a good point, and it's echoed by Todd Willantis relative to the timing of the permit. I wouldn't want to unduly hold up Mr. Angelo, and I don't know how these things work. What's the process for getting an answer to those excellent questions?
Well, I think what we have to do is have the harbor master reach out to the legal department for the town as far as, again, our recommendations. Ultimately, this will go to the town council, and we just don't want to hold it up. But I think we're generally in favor of, and just speaking for myself, generally in favor of the concept, the idea. It has been permitted in the spring. This is a little bit different to have it in the fall, get some folks used to it. I'm not sure everybody is comfortable with the day after Labor Day date. And before we go ahead and say yes, I think I would like to have that question answered from the harbor master to legal. Are we able to amend this at all? Or is it a 5-year permit or nothing? And again, we're not issuing the permit, but we will be giving a recommendation. And I think if we want to endorse this project, as many people have expressed by letter or comment tonight, they're in favor of it. And for all of the different reasons stated, I'd just like to have that answered. So I would propose that we get those answered and we come up with a recommendation at our next meeting.
Good idea.
I will contact legal and to answer that question, whether or not it has to be a 5-year permit or not.
I can just tell you in the DMF regulations that the town can issue any stipulations, just like you want to change the lights or whatever. You can in the DMF CMR. It says the town's able to put in any stipulations that they want.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Jake. Yeah, I believe, like I said, we have had an existing fish weir, 2 of them in Nantucket Sound with Nantucket Fish Weirs, and they were 5-year permits. Whether or not town council wants to do it 1 year, 5 years, again, I'd have to inquire with legal. I just can't answer whether or not we could put a stipulation like that if it was 1 year or 2 years. I just can't answer that to the best of my knowledge.
Okay, how do the rest of the members feel about coming back in our April meeting with a conclusion after we get these things answered?
I think it's a good idea.
Okay, Peter, thank you. Greg?
Yeah, I'm in support of taking that taking that direction, and at the same time coming full circle with my comments. Want to thank Mr. Angelo for really coming back here with a lot of the better detail and moving this committee in the direction of support. So I think we get that question answered, we'll be well on our way. So thank you, Paul.
Okay, thank you, Todd.
Yeah, more clarity is helpful. I would want to make sure, at least from my own perspective, that the purpose of review would be for a safety purpose, not to handicap Mr. Angelo or any future business concern. You know, there's an investment, there's a certainly a monetary investment, a time investment, and I do have a little concern. I wouldn't be in favor of reducing it to a 1-year permit, because I think that really handicaps their investment capability. But certainly the opportunity to review it in the event that it became a safety concern.
Okay, thank you. And Gary?
Yeah, I agree with the group at this point with just getting those questions answered.
Okay. All right, thank you all. And for Mr. Angelo, if you would plan on next month's meeting, we'll come back with some further conclusions and move this project, hopefully move this project forward.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Before
Mr.
that,
Mr.
excuse me,
Chairman,
Jake, before that,
So
just procedurally,
yeah, we have a so we have a motion on the floor. And I think Paul, we might just want to clean that up to
I withdraw my motion.
All right.
Thanks,
Thanks, Peter.
seconded, so withdrawn.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Lawler, you want to?
yeah, procedurally, I just like, because we've had 2 meetings with public comment and back and forth and issues brought up. It seems that this board's come to handle the discussion portion of it. And I would just like the board to note for the record that public comment is closed and will not be reopened for the next meeting, and that these are really issues for legal and for your discussion.
So, Mr. Lawler, Brian Taylor, Harbor Master, public comment will come into effect at town council as well, so.
No, I understand that, but I'm saying
This
for
is stage
purposes of
one.
the next meeting. That this board it's already reached its deliberation, that it deliberated, it had a few answers for legal. I'm just trying to streamline the process. I'm making the request. You can deny it. I mean, I'm just making that request.
Okay. I'm not sure if we would really even, if there are any more letters that come in, either, for it or opposed to it, people can certainly submit that. But we don't anticipate opening up another public comment section. I think we got a pretty good feel. It's been almost an hour's worth, so we'll be good with that. Okay.
Thank
well,
you.
Thank you all for your input on that. All right, moving on. Mooring regulations. Jay?
Yeah, we're just keeping this warm for right now. Same thing, we're waiting for legal to approve what was already brought in front of the Waterways Committee. Still no word back from them.
Yeah.
Or excuse me, legal has approved it. We're waiting for the town manager to sign off on it.
Yeah, it sounds like we're gonna have to hold another town meeting in regards to the regulation changes. So we'll have something for April Waterways Committee meeting with a proposed date. We need to work with the town manager's office. It sounds like we need to hold another public meeting in regards to the mooring regulations before moving forward.
Okay, and would marina fees fall in?
So
that?
marina fees, no, that's a little bit separate. Marina fees, this coming May, we're gonna hold our first online meeting in regards to a proposed change to the marina fees. We talked about this all last year. We're gonna hold one online meeting and one in-person meeting. Proposed dates right now, as we have, is May 21st, what I believe is set in stone, and then I think we'll look again in either August or September for an in-person meeting to discuss the fees that we discussed last year, which is one flat fee across the board for all marinas for residents, and then and commercial folks, and then one non-resident fee across the board, so it's the same. But we will discuss that in May, and I will bring forward proposed fee changes then.
Okay, thank you. Under new business, Eel River closing the wait list.
Yeah, so there's 27 different mooring fields in the town of Barnstable. Each of them have an established wait list. Some of those wait lists are open where individuals can add their name to them simply by applying, filling out an application. Other wait lists are closed, where you can only get on via lottery. And I took a look at the Eel River wait list, and it's climbed quite a bit since I've been in office. There's currently 86 people on the Eel River wait list right now. And this is a mooring field that generally gives up about one mooring per year. So with that math, you know, the guy at the end is never going to see a mooring. That we're 86 years away from his name being called. So I'm asking the committee to close this wait list so that in the future, the only way you can add your name would be via the lottery.
Okay, how many moorings do we have in Eel River? If you know.
Not a lot. If I had to guess, somewhere around 30.
Okay, so my point is the wait list is basically 3 times the amount of moorings there, and with an annual turnover, as you say, of one or so, it's we're not in danger of running out of people on that wait list.
No, no.
Okay. How do the members feel about that one? Peter?
I'm okay with it. Yeah.
Okay. Greg?
In support of the recommendation.
All right. And Todd?
I'm in favor of the recommendation.
Thank you. And Gary?
I'm in favor.
Thank you. All right, Jay, we're all in favor of closing that wait list.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Next up, waitlist offerings regarding individuals who pass.
Yeah, I mean, we briefly discussed this with the committee before. I'm into mooring offering season right now. It's a labor of love. It takes me about 8 months to complete that task. Every year, about 100 individuals give up their mooring in the town of Barnstable. And it's my job as the mooring officer to go to the wait list and fill those empty spots in the mooring field. What we're seeing is a lot of dead weight at the top of these lists, and I just wanted to share with you the background here of my computer system and what I work with. And what I have pulled up is Hyannisport. And you see if we click on the first individual and we scroll down, in 2021, they were offered, they passed. 2022, 2023, 2024. They've been offered 4 times now and have passed. If we scroll down some more and just pick another person at random, number 27, same thing, offered, passed, offered, passed, offered, passed. In Hyannisport right now, I've got to get all the way to number 50 before I reach my go, no go line. That's what I call it. The first 48 to 50 people in Hyannisport are passing every year. As a total, every year, I offer about 400 moorings to move 100 people off of the wait list. So 75% of the people that we're offering moorings to aren't taking them. And the vast majority of these people are all at the front of the list. I get comments a lot in public when I'm out in town that the wait list doesn't move, the wait list doesn't move. And that's not true. The wait list is moving, and it's moving substantially. Every year I move as many people as I can off of it, physically possible. We know our mooring fields are capped out at this point. The problem is that they're seeing the same names at the beginning of these lists year after year, and they don't think that, you know, the lists are moving. So basically what I'm proposing with the town, now that we've started collecting this data and I can see who's passing, who's taking moorings, what I want to ask the committee is if we should implement a 3-strike rule starting in 2025, where we give you 3 years to take a mooring. And if you pass all 3 years, then your name would go to the back of the list. And I'll open that up to any comments with the committee if they think that's fair or not. But at this point, we need to do something, you know, to offer 400 moorings to move 100 people is a lot of work on my end. It's a lot of time I could be using towards more important things in my job.
Jay,
Okay.
I'd love to go first on this one. I've made it painfully obvious, but I wouldn't be in favor of 3 strikes. 1 strike off the list. It's ridiculous. If you want turnover on the list, then people either have to accept or get off of it. You've done a tremendous job, Jay, of offering all these moorings, but if the top 50 people were off the list, you'd be able to breathe life into this entire process, and people wouldn't be hoarding these things. They wouldn't have multiple moorings. The system as it was designed originally no longer works. And with the record keeping and the efforts currently going on in the Harbor Master Office, you have the ability to completely change this and not make it a lifetime wait for a mooring. But we have to get rid of these antiquated practices and 3 strikes and 3 years and 5 years. Some people don't have that. Some people are here to enjoy the waterway now. And when you're allowing someone to go on for 3 and 4 years based on past practices, it's just an antiquated system, and it needs to be 100% reinvented.
Okay, Todd, thank you.
Todd?
Anybody else like to make a comment on this one?
Yeah, this is Greg. I disagree a little bit with my friend, Mr. Willantis. From the perspective that 1 strike is, you know, someone could have personal issues and couldn't take it for a year. They might have waited on that list for quite a while, and they got the opportunity, and some personal issue came up. And so, you know, I'd like to be more accommodating than 1 strike. You know, I was trying to think of the downside. And Todd brought up a great point, is that they're holding spaces from other people that might want to, and it's a very good point, and I agree with that. But to go from 0 to 1 year, you know, I like a phase-in thing, and the 3 years suggestion by Jay Horn, I'd be more comfortable with.
Okay, thank you, Greg.
Gentlemen, how about 2? As a compromise? Because I agree that I know people that have passed and passed and passed, and they're procrastinating. Oh, I'm buying a boat, but they didn't take my offer on the boat I was going to buy, and bloody, bloody, bloody. It gets ridiculous after a while.
Yeah.
I'd be if 2 is a compromise, I'll offer.
Okay, and Peter? Jay, let me ask you this. How much is it to stay on the wait list per year?
It's $15.
It's 15, okay.
For mooring.
When somebody passes, they pay that $15, and the next year they pay the 15, and they keep on paying the 15 to stay and keep on passing it along?
Yes.
That's correct, yeah.
Okay.
The vast majority of these names were added when the wait lists were open. And what people did is they put their name on every wait list that they could because they were open. And I think that's why we have this buildup now years later, is because the lists weren't closed. Individuals were able to add their names. Everyone has taken a mooring who's wanted a mooring, and for whatever reason, these individuals still hold on to this. You know, some people say, oh, it's for my kid. And then just like Mr. Cross said, others have the excuse that they, you know, they don't have a boat yet. You know, boats in their future. I hear all different reasons when I ask people why they still pay their fee, but it's cheap enough that it's nothing to these people to pay that $15 a year and remain on the list. And it's not hurting the people at the back of the list. It's hurting me. It's all the time it takes. I have to email the first 50 people in Hyannis, and I have to wait 5 days for their response before I can move on to number 51 and get to the people that are going to take a mooring. So it's really just the amount of work that I have to do to cycle through these individuals to get movement every year. And I think, you know, like I said before, to offer 400 moorings to move 100 people, that's a lot. Something's wrong with the system when you have to do that.
Jay, how many people are on the Hyannis Port waiting list?
200.
So you'd reduce it by 25% by knocking the first 50 right off.
Yeah.
And then you could open it up again for another lottery.
Well, the Hyannis Port list is open. That's one list that's not closed, same as Lewis Bay. It hovers around 200 people since I've been here. And I've added about 25 moorings in Hyannis Port. I've extended that mooring field all the way out to the line since I've been here. But that list hovers around 200 people historically, and it is open.
How does this translate into some of your other more popular lists, Katuitt?
Yeah, they all drastically change. Like for example, the yacht club on the lake, on Lake Pocket, the first 2 people pass every year, and then I'm off to the races. So it does change per mooring field. The Katuitt Town Dock is a lot less. I think Katuitt Town Dock is around the first 24 people pass every year. Somewhere around there. I can look at the data and I can tell you, but the moorings field changed drastically from one field to the other.
Okay. How many of our wait lists, how many of our 28 or so mooring fields, how many have been closed and you can't get on that wait list? Any idea?
The vast majority of our wait lists are closed right now because if they were open, we'd run into the Eel River scenario. There'd be so many names on them that we wouldn't be able to get to the person at the back of the list. Right now, like Lewis Bay is open, Hyannis Port is open, but the vast majority are closed. Katuitt Town Dock, Cordwood, Katuitt Bay Shores, North Bay, North Bay Channel, all these areas are closed just because too many individuals would sign up.
Okay. So what really is happening is by these people passing, even though they're paying the $15 and they're staying in their position, and ultimately it doesn't affect the first person that accepts, but it affects the people that are trying to get onto that list, and the list is closed because there's no movement at the top.
Yeah, that's 100% true, Paul.
Okay, all right.
And I have a hard time with kicking them off the list because it is closed. But I think if we give them notification and we tell them this is the way it is, you get 3 strikes, I think people are gonna either take a mooring or they're gonna get moved to the back of the list.
Okay, for Harbor Master Taylor, do we or the town have to amend anything on our procedures in order to, like, say, adopt either a 3 or a 2 or whatever we come up with as a rule?
Yes, Chairman Everson, this would be a regulation change. So, the regulations haven't been approved yet by the town manager, are not signed. It's something we could take a look at now. And like I said, we need to hold another public meeting, but it would be a regulation change.
Okay. Well, I think you're hearing from the committee members that, we have to do something about the stagnant lists, even though the lists do move only because of Jay's hard work and all the time and effort that the town has to put into just to get down there to start finding people that will accept it. So in order to kind of clear out the top, that the perennial people that pass every year, I think, we would have to move to make a regulation change.
Mr. Chairman, I don't need a decision tonight. I just wanted to present this information to the committee, let them think about it. We can keep it on the agenda for next month. I just wanted to get it out there because again, I started this process again for 2024. And, it took me a week to get through the Hyannisport list, where I could start getting some traction. And I just want to do something about it in the future. And now we have all the data to go off of. So I figured better start now than later.
Ask a question, Mr. Chairman.
Please, go ahead.
Harbor Master Taylor, do we have a similar, excuse me, a similar situation when you're offering slips in the various marinas?
Yes, so we do have a similar situation in which individuals pass, and they have passed for quite some time.
So if we're going to solve this problem, my suggestion would be that we divide it down the middle and solve the problem for moorings, and at the same time, solve the problem for that you have offering slips at the various marinas and be done with it.
Okay. So we could, of course, keep it on the agenda. We could move to, do a change in regulations. We did just change the marina regulations last year, but this is something that would be just one change within the regulation. So we could certainly move to keep this on the agenda for next month and have another conversation about it, and then potentially move forward with a regulation change. I mean, I think now would be the time to do it. Jay's obviously been in this position for some time. I was in the same position as Jay. Offering moorings is quite extensive. I think that if we're going to do it, the regulations have not been signed into effect yet. So now would be the time to do it for especially moorings.
How about this one? Jay came up with like a 3-year and then to the back of the list, but that's not really reducing the list. It's just moving people to the back. After 3 years, if they don't get a mooring, remove them from the list.
Jay, could you just go back to the agenda real quick? So yes, I'm Mr. Shramick. We could, but we need to find a way to organize, and we found a way to manage the data, but we need to reinvent how we would knock someone off the list. So that would be a conversation with our software company, or we could potentially do it in-house. It's a little bit more confusing like that. Jay and I have discussed that matter. It would be nice because we're currently doing that right now, is we're collecting data to see how many times an individual has passed. But we need to get to a point where it's like, okay, they passed once, they need to go to the bottom of the list, or they passed 3 times, they need to get removed from the list. I'm just not quite sure unless we did it, manually. And it's quite a few people
that defeats the purpose manually.
Yeah. So I
I totally agree.
We'd have to look into the software a little bit more to see if we're even able to do that. But I think we can do that, probably within the next month, and at least have a conversation with them and come back to the board and said yes or no, we can or can't do that.
Well, I think that in the long run, that would solve the problem, I think. Okay, just a suggestion.
Yeah. So do we want to put it on the agenda for next month to have a conversation in regards to both moorings and marina wait list offerings?
Yeah.
I think that'd be a good idea.
I think so.
And then, feel free, you can email ideas that you have to us, and we can talk about them next Waterways Committee. I think it's a good conversation. It's like I said, both Jay and I have gone through this, and it's quite difficult to offer moorings. And you do have some individuals that have just been on that list for 20-25 years. But we need to make sure that we can still manage the wait list properly and take all that data we collect and be able to efficiently still move through the list and collect the data, and it be fair and equitable for everybody. So it's definitely a good conversation.
Okay, we will have that on the agenda for next month as well. Okay, Bismarck Park looks like slip A4. Am I reading that right, Jay? But Tyler Huckemeyer regarding a change in plan for a slip held at Bismore Park Marina vessel Isabella H for six-person fishing charters.
So this is a change of vessel request for Bismore Park Marina for Mr. Tyler Huckemeyer. He's changing his business operations from what he previously had to this new business operation. Not quite sure if it's going to be slip A4. I may have to make some moves at Bismore, but with that being said, Tyler, are you present? I'm not sure if that's, I see Tyler H. I'm not sure if that's Tyler Huckemeyer. So I'm not sure if the Huckemeyers are present. Let's put this off again until April if you'll accept that, Chairman, and then I'll have a conversation with them to make sure they're at the Waterways Committee to present their business plan.
Okay. We will put that off to April as well. Correspondence, a letter from Hyannisport Yacht Club Vice Commodore regarding Mr. Angelo's fishing weir application. In basically a nutshell, I'll enter this letter into our record.
Yeah, that's why I wanted Jay to go back to this agenda. Pam, and I know Pam's present. I think there's 11 correspondence or 12. Not sure if the agenda actually updated online in time. I think it did. Jay, where'd you pull the agenda from, your records or online?
I got it from the one Pam sent me.
Okay, yeah, I believe that
13 letters that are on that.
there's 13 from, so this doesn't correctly show all the correspondence that are present on the current agenda that's posted.
Okay, yeah, I did receive, I looked, I think I went down the list. I had 7 that came in a positive support for the program and 2 others that had the concerns. So we will just incorporate all. Yes, go ahead.
There were also, I believe it was, I forget how many other letters. Jay has them in the envelope behind his desk on the door that did not get on the agenda, but the letters were submitted to all of you guys to read.
Okay. All right, so we'll put those all as part of the fish weir file. Harbor Master report.
Yes, sir. As you guys know, we have a 27-foot safe boat. It's the flagship of our operation. It is currently in the water and it's slit at Bismore Park Marina, ready for the season. We are digging out all the ATONs right now, going through all the chains. So you're going to start seeing the channel markers popping up in the beginning of April here. It's already springtime. We're getting ready for that. And the big news is it's still mooring renewal season with the $50 late fee. People have till March 31st to get their mooring permits in. That actually lands on a Sunday. You'd be able to do it online up until Sunday, but if you need to get paperwork in or have something with your registration that's not current or any issues that you have, get to the office, get here by Friday so that we can work with you. But yeah, that's it. March 31st is the deadline for the late fee. And that's all I have for you guys tonight.
Okay, thank you. Anything else from any of the members? If not, then thanks everybody for a good meeting here. A lot of input, a lot of folks hearing their views on the fish weir subject. So I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All right. Thanks, everybody.